And now, live from Level 5 Productions on the island of Milleronia, it's The Larry Miller Show. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and everyone who's ever snuck liquor into a baseball game. Hi, folks, and welcome back to the Larry Miller Show. I'm Larry Miller, but in a way, aren't we all? And boy, oh boy, well, I'll tell you more about sneaking liquor into a baseball game, but what's better than the World Series? I love the game of baseball anyway, and always have, and my team is not in it this year. That would be the Yankees. But boy, I'll tell you, there's just nothing like a World Series game. I'll tell you more about that later. I've got a story about it. That's, as always, true and funny and preposterous. But you know what? It's gorgeous here. I am back on Milleronia with Colonel Jeff, and I love it very much here. And by the way, we do something very special for the World Series. We have in our big meeting hall, and it's very big, and we have screens that go up, 18 screens that go up all the way. It's a domed ceiling, and boy, you can get everything you want there: pizza, hot dogs, hamburgers, and fresh ice-cold Coca-Cola. And great beer. We don't have a dozen different kinds of beer. We just have beer, which is frankly the way I like it. I don't know about you, but I don't need ketchup with garlic. Just ketchup is fine. If you're going to eat ketchup and you want to put it on the hamburger or on the French fries, ketchup is fine. And that's the way I feel about beer. You know what? Give me a good, solid American beer, and it's really cold in a big mug. Well, I'm the happiest guy on Broadway. At any rate, it's wonderful here on Milleronia. It's always wonderful, but during the World Series, what a great time. And what a great time to shoot a show the way we're doing here right now. And it makes me very happy the way our music always does. The Colonel and I we love it very much. And of course, that's the Jim Morris Orchestra and the Lori Morris Dancers, featuring boy tenor Mike Lucking, asking the musical question, when Army men on Milleronia are in training, do they wear a little bra and wheels? Good one, Mike. Funny and interesting. And it so happens, yes, we had one. We had one time, a corporal thought it would be funny, so he came in basic training. He came out with the platoon one day, and yes, he was wearing a little bra, and his field boots were strapped with wheels, and the whole company had a good laugh over it. And I am here to tell you that both the little bra and the wheels burned just fine with him in Volcano Number 2. So, good question, Mike. And they do, and not anymore, though, not on Milleronia, and it would be fine with me, but not on Milleronia, and maybe on Foxaronia, but in any case, there's much more to say about Jim and Lori Morris, but you'll just have to wait. And by PayPal. That's right, PayPal. Boy, these guys are great. That, it's one of my favorite groups. If you enjoy my show, and why wouldn't you, and you'd like to send a few bucks to us to help out, and why wouldn't you, you can do it through PayPal. But the way I like to do it is, instead of saying, donate this, or pay what you like, or join the Platinum Committee, I always like to say, you know what, buy us some drinks, and let's leave it there. Because there are different levels, level 1 through 5, all the way up to, we're driving to Florida! That was me yelling that. I just imagined me in a training bra and with those wheels on. Do girls still wear those, by the way, training bras? It suddenly dawned on me. I mean, I'm not making a joke there. I'm just saying, well, girls used to do that, right? When they're 12 and 14 or something, get training bras. And I had training wheels on my first bicycle that came down from one of the kids in the neighborhood there. And I liked that bike something off. It was terrific. And it was just kid size. And there were training wheels on the back wheels. And they didn't hit the ground exactly. My dad put them on. And they were supposed to, I don't know. I always noticed every time I got on it that the training wheels didn't train. I mean, they didn't hit the ground. But I learned how to ride the bike pretty fast, and that was that anyway. And my dad took them off. But you know what? Good question, Mike. And so if you do enjoy the show, think about PayPal. It makes a lot of difference to us. And you know what? Look for the PayPal banner on our website. Yes, you can get there 100 different ways on any computer and iPhone you have. But you know what? Go to our website, and we'll get you there. Our website, of course, is LarryMillerPodcast.com. Who's on the mountain? Tom Mix.
Steerike!
I love that. I was telling Colonel Jeff before. That's a great call. Steerike! There's a fellow comes home. Would he do that with his wife and kids? Do your homework! Oh, why do you have to keep telling me to shut up? At any rate, thank you for joining us and helping us on PayPal. Every little bit helps us keep the old leg lamp lit. And thanks to everyone who has contributed already. It means a lot. And that brings me to my favorite part of the show, the joke of the week. This is a good one, too. The Colonel and I both like this one. Two old friends, well, they've been friends their whole lives, and they're in their 90s now. And sure enough, one gets sick, and it looks like this is it. He's dying, and he's not going to recover from this. He's on his deathbed, so his good friend comes to visit him at home on his deathbed, and he says they talk for a little bit, and then he says to his friend who's dying, he said, look, do me a favor. We've been friends our whole lives, and there's something I want you to do for me. Let me know if there's baseball in heaven, okay? Because they were both huge baseball fans, and he wanted to know, and his dying friend takes his hand and nods and says, we've been friends forever. This I will do for you. And sure enough, boy, 2 days later, he passes away. And everything happens the way it should. There's a burial, and that's fine, too. But, then just about a week after that, his surviving friend is asleep one night in his bed back at his house, and he hears his dead friend's voice, and it's calling him, and it's saying, I've got good news and bad news. And he says, what? Well, the good news is, yes, there is baseball in heaven. Oh, that's wonderful. What's the bad news? You're pitching tomorrow. That's a good one, isn't it? And as always, if you like that and it made you smile and laugh, pass it along. Keep jokes going and keep them alive. Pass that one along to, your family, your friends, your kids, anybody you like. And that's why, after all, it's a joke of the week. And that brings me to my second favorite part of the show, the Poetry Corner. Boy, yeah, there is baseball in heaven, but that's the kind of music they play. So it's not exactly what you're used to. But, oh boy, I'm sorry, I should have had the fish. At any rate, folks, this is a great poem by the great Edgar Allan Poe. And as Colonel Jeff has mentioned on our website, well, we're doing Poe's work all the the whole month of October for one thing. And as Colonel Jeff called it, OctPOEber. And he's smart and funny. Just like you and me. And this poem by the great Poe is called El Dorado. Gaily bedight, a gallant knight, in sunshine and in shadow, had journeyed long, singing a song, in search of El Dorado. But he grew old, this knight so bold, and o'er his heart a shadow fell, as he found no spot of ground that looked like El Dorado. And, as his strength failed him at length, he met a pilgrim shadow. Shadow, said he, where can it be, this land of El Dorado? Over the mountains of the moon, down the valley of the shadow, ride, boldly ride, the shade replied, if you seek for El Dorado. Isn't that nice? Isn't that a lovely poem? Well, I guess that's why we can also call it poem. It's by Poe. That'd be really wild if that's how the word came about, but no, I think that word was there a couple of thousand years before he was. The great Edgar Allan Poe, and a great poem, El Dorado. And that brings me to my third favorite part of the show, the magic movie moment. And this is a terrific movie, by the way. And I and the Colonel started looking for baseball movies for tonight because, well, again, it's the World Series, for crying out loud, folks. And there are wonderful baseball movies out there. I've done The Pride of the Yankees before. What a wonderful movie, with Gary Cooper and Teresa Wright and Walter Brennan and Babe Ruth, for crying out loud. And boy, that's a great movie. But this one is too. It's terrific. It's from 2002, The Rookie, directed by John Lee Hancock, starring Dennis Quaid, Rachel Griffiths, Brian Cox, Beth Grant, so many others. And it's a good movie, and it really makes you feel good, and it's interesting, and it's a true story about a chemistry teacher in a high school in Texas, and he was also their head baseball coach at that high school. And he had what looked like a promising career in baseball when he was younger. He was on a minor league squad for the Devil Rays. That's what they used to be called, and then they changed it to the Rays. Folks, it's a true story, and it's really worth seeing. Dennis Quaid is such a great actor. I've worked with him before, and I'm so fond of him. And he's great in this. And Rachel Griffiths, good Lord, a great actress. And I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, she's gorgeous with 2 G's. I don't even know what that means. But she's so beautiful and in such a neighborly, wifely American way. I think she's Australian. I can't remember. But she's a great actress and beautiful. And the great Brian Cox and Beth Grant. Folks, this is a terrific movie. And the magic movie moment for tonight is about them, about that married couple. And that's why I picked those names. Jim Morris, and Rachel played his wife, Lori. And he goes away. He's got a bet with his high school players, and they bet him that he had to try out for the minor league squad. And this is in professional baseball. And he said, all right. And so it's summer. It's in between 2 school years. And he goes there. And you know what? He makes the team on the squad on the minor league. He's a pitcher. And he's 38 years old. But he's now a pitcher on a minor league team. And everybody is really, really following it and really, really happy. And, well, it's not easy, though. You're always on a bus, always going somewhere, and he's doing fine. But at a certain point, he said, you know what, I think I've had it. And he calls back to his wife, Lori, and that's Rachel Griffiths, and they have a phone conversation. He says, I think I've about had it. And she says something that's wonderful. She says, you know what? She really sticks with him and says, you know what? Don't do this right now. Think about it. Because if you leave, that's it. The dream forever is gone, and it's not coming back. So just think about that and wait just a little bit. And he takes her advice, and he waits, and he thinks, and sure enough, he gets to a point where they're promoting another player on the team, on the minor league squad, a young man who's a terrific athlete, and they're promoting him. The manager of the team calls Dennis into his office after a game one night and says, well, we're sending him up. That's the word, and the club is going to send him up, and Dennis Quaid is a great guy in the movie, and he's saying, all right, good, and the manager says to him, but he's going to have some problems getting used to this and that, and that's why they decided to send you with him. And we know now, and Dennis knows that, good Lord, he made it. He's going up to the show. He's going to be a major league pitcher. And the magic movie moment for me is he calls his wife back that night, and it's from a phone booth, and he's saying to her, and how are you, and how are the kids, and this and that, and then he says, hey, do I still have that light blue sport coat in my closet? And she says, yeah, I think so, sure. And he said, well, I may need you to send it to me. They may have to take some pictures, and there's a long pause there, and we see her face in her home. And after the pause, she says, with a tiny smile, she says to him, Jimmy Morris, you tell me right now, are you going up? Did you make this team? And he smiles too on his end. And folks, for a magic movie moment, it can be one line like that. I loved the two of them in this movie. I love the story of this movie. I love how it was shot, and I love what happens. But after we see them so close to each other, and to make this decision for him to go try this, and she's going to be there, with the kids and, sending them and taking them here and there, but she's with him. And when she says that, Jimmy Morris, you tell me right now, with a tiny smile, and it's the perfect line. It's really well written, and she delivers it beautifully. And they smile over the phone at each other, and we feel great. I feel great every time I see it, and you will too. If you haven't seen it, do it. It's The Rookie, directed by John Lee Hancock, with Dennis Quaid, Rachel Griffiths, Brian Cox, Beth Grant, and so many others. Jimmy Morris, you tell me right now. Folks, you'll be glad you did. And yeah, I did, as I mentioned, I wanted to do something about baseball tonight, and Colonel Jeff agreed. And it reminded me of a story that I think I told the first year we did this show, or part of it anyway. But you know what? Colonel Jeff said, it's the perfect time for it. Tell that story again. And it's called Hey Fatso. Now, number one, that's not a word you hear a lot anymore, fatso. It's a slang, and it's not a compliment, but it's from, I'm guessing, 100 years ago. I'm guessing it started, hey Fatso, where's Fatso? And it's nobody's going to feel good being called that. And I remember a Honeymooners episode with, of course, Jackie Gleason and Art Carney, and it's great. And they have to play pool against someone else, and they arrange. Art Carney has the idea that someone will call up, that rather, come into the pool hall and just say to Ralph, "Hey, Fatso, I'm going to play pool on that table next or something, but this is going to be paid for," and that Ralph should then go over and just punch him right in the mouth, and the guy will know to fall down and pretend he was knocked out, so that the guy who was going to beat up Ralph gets scared and he runs out. But I remember that guy. He was a terrific actor in movies and TV, and he's really well built. He played a lot of bad guys. I remember him going that, "Hey, Fatso, hey, look who's got a big mouth over here telling me what to do, Fatso." And that's a great episode. But here's what happened in a baseball game. I used to go, once I moved out to Southern California and to Los Angeles and to show business from New York, I used to go back every spring for opening day at Yankee Stadium. And I used to love doing that, and I'd fly back. And I'd meet a friend or two there, and we'd go to opening day at home at Yankee Stadium. And we did this one day, this one year, and we went there, and we're sitting on the right field side and under a giant awning, under the second deck, I think. And we're sitting there, and, well, we snuck in a couple of pints of whiskey. And if I remember correctly, it was Jameson's Irish whiskey. I mean, how do you beat that? For crying out loud. If you're going to sneak liquor in, what did you bring? Oh, some vodka. What? What are you, stupid? No, it's an American baseball game. Bring Irish whiskey, for crying out loud. And so we had a couple of pints, and we're sitting there and then drinking beer and eating hot dogs and being at a baseball game and then loving it. And, well, a fight started about 8 rows to our right. It was in the same section as us, and just about 7 or 8 rows. And there was a guy. It was one fella behind and one fella in front on the rows there. Who knows? What was the fight about? Who knows? A fight at a ball game. It doesn't quite matter anyway. But the guy above him there, so they were in the same seat there, but one was higher and one was lower. And the guy on the upper end looked like he should be in the fight. I mean, he wasn't. He had sort of a sleeveless shirt on, and he wasn't, he was about 5'7" or so, 5'8", but a tough 5'8", and you could see in his arms, and he could pop and he could punch, and he was shooting punches out. And the guy below him was, well, fat, very, very fat, very, very, very fat, but he was fighting back. So he's turned around and facing up to the smaller guy. And, you don't want to attack uphill. Teddy Roosevelt did it with the Rough Riders, and they won. But, that's normally not something you want to do. So the fella who's fat and his belly was coming out, he didn't look promising in this. And this other guy just above him was, getting shots in, all the just pop, 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 pop. And each one of those things, I don't know if you know this, but if you've never been in a fist fight, it's not like Bonanza where, someone you get hit, hey, why I oughta, there's no why I oughta. You get hit, you've been hit. And this guy was hitting him, and the big guy, the fat guy, was hitting back, but he's punching uphill, so to speak. And folks, there's, first of all, there are no cops around, because you have to know at Yankee Stadium, it's great duty for cops to get. It's normally heroes. And that's the truth of, that if you save a lot of tourists, and if you take a bullet or two, and if you've stood up to really, really, really bad guys and you survived, you get your choice of a couple of different services, a couple of different duties. When I was in that Neil Simon play on Broadway, we had a guy named Pat, and a cop. He's a great guy, and he was headquartered in our theater. Well, headquartered. He used to hang out there. But he said he picked that. You could pick the Broadway show district, and he was a hero cop. And he was a young fella, and he said, yeah, I thought this would be nice. See some stars, see some people I know from television and movies. And I remember, because we got to be friends, and I remember saying to him, how'd that work out? And he kind of gave me a look and smiled and said, well, not the way I thought it would, but that's fine too. But Yankee Stadium and Mets Stadium, Citi Field, I was going to say Shea Stadium again, but Citi Field are great duty to get for a cop who's been a hero. And frankly, especially Yankee Stadium. So there are no cops around while this fight's going on, but they're not shy. New York cops, good Lord, they've already been heroes. And this fight is going on and pop, 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 pop. So it's going on for 2-3 minutes, which is a long time for a fight. And the big guy, the fat guy, is getting hit. Pow, 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 pow. And it has that meat sound to it. Every time you hit him in the face, remember, it's not a tsh or tsh. It's not like anything from a movie or a kapow. It really sounds like, well, you're hitting a piece of hanging meat. But just to our left, then, about 5 rows to our left, and everybody's watching the fight. How do you not watch a fight at a ball game or something? Hey, look, a fight. And so a little to our left, a handful of rows to our left, there are 2 guys who also, they had bottles of liquor, and so we're drinking our liquor, everybody's drinking liquor. They had all snuck it in. And these 2 guys were there. They were, in their late 30s or early 40s, I think. And one guy started yelling at the fight, hey, Fatso! And every time he said that, he'd turn to his friend and laugh and go, and it may not sound like that much, but it was so funny. We, not just me and my friends, everyone within 100 seats started to smile at something about the way he said it. And it was every 10, 15 seconds. And it got louder. Hey, Fatso! And he was having a terrific time. Folks, I'm telling you, we all started to laugh too. We couldn't not laugh. Still don't even know what was funny about it. And this guy, the fat guy, was taking those punches, boy, like a champ. And the guy who's 5'8" above him wasn't tiring out, but you could see, hey, what does it take to drop this guy? And he's going, pow, pow, both hands, pow, pow, pow. And every 10 seconds, hey, Fatso! And at this point, one of the cops, because they had about 15 rows above us, there's a few of the cops hanging out because they have their headquarters there, which is just next to one of the food stands. And headquarters means that they give them a room there with 2 or 3 chairs in it and a lot of boxes of napkins or something. It's for the food chain. But they could go in there and just relax for a second, sit on the chair. And they had bottles of Jameson's too. And why shouldn't they? What's wrong with that? Why not? And so they could go in and they could have a couple of snorts and out of the bottle there and then come back out. And one of the guys saw the fight going on, so he comes downstairs. 15 rows. And he's a real New York cop. God bless him. If you were doing central casting for New York Irish cop, this is the guy you'd get. Not red hair, red-brown hair, and that cop mustache that you have to be Irish to have. You can't grow a mustache that good unless you're fully Irish. He came down and he'd say, now, these guys don't kid around. Just so you know, there are no warnings. There's no, let's talk this out. He comes down there and there's a partner, a friend of his who's just standing behind him. They're both cops in full uniform. And, they don't need to come down there. They'd rather be up there under the awning there and getting to go into their office and, well, have a seat inside there and a couple of pops. And he says to these guys, "What are you doing here?" And they had both stopped fighting, and he says to them, "Now you listen to me. Watch the game. I don't want to have to come down here again. If I do, you're going right to the station with me. And what do you think's going to happen there? Could be a terrible accident. Do you understand what I'm saying?" And they, of course, they gave him the straight, "Yes, sir." And they're not wrong. This guy's not kidding. And all right, you had your fun. Now stop it. Face forward and watch the game. And you could see, and this guy he wasn't being mean. He was being a good cop. And all he didn't say was, "I want to be upstairs with my friends there and having a drink or two, and then we'll watch the game." And then he called out over, he said, "All right, who's the fatso guy?" And the other guy, people listen to this. Again, it's not other parts of our country. This is New York and Yankee Stadium and New York cops. So when he said, "Who's the fatso guy?" he just immediately raised his hand. And the cop he just said the same thing. "You too. You don't shut up, I'm taking you in. Never mind what for. I'll think of something." And he looked, boy, this was a big, strong, good-looking guy. This is not a guy with a pot belly. This was a hero cop. And they shut up, and he didn't even say to us, everyone hid their bottles, but he's not an idiot. He knows you're standing there with pint bottles, always pint bottles, because you can hide those a little bit. And so he just said to us, to everybody there, "So everyone shut up and watch the game. If you see me again, I'm going to have my hand on your collar and my hand on your belt, and you're getting the bum's rush." And he wasn't kidding. And you know what? To me, and then he went back upstairs, and we all, did what he said, because also it was enough. Sure, there was a fight. And these guys, in the classic old traditional value, he made them shake hands. "Yeah, all right, now you two. Shake hands." "I said shake hands." And they're a little reluctant, then they do. You know what, folks? That always works. I don't know what else is going to happen in our world and in our cities and in our country, but that always works. They did. They shook hands. They looked at each other in the eyes and kind of, it got their blood down a bit. Sure enough, and they shook hands. And not surprisingly, the fat guy was pretty beat up. I mean, he was going to watch the game. Sure. What else is he going to do? But he was bloody. And the other guy above him, the 5'8" guy, was like Uncle Joe. He was moving kind of slow. And, cause the fat guy had laced him pretty good, a bunch of times. Body shots. And, boy, oh boy. And then they sat down, they were quiet, and when the cops walked away, we all, meaning 100 people all around, took their bottles out again, and we kind of held them up to these two fellas and toasted them. Said, "You know what? It was a good fight. It was only one round, but well done." And there was a little smattering of applause. We applauded them. And then we all took drinks, and we watched the opening day game at Yankee Stadium. Boy, I know that was fun, but so do you. You and I, as you understand, we know the same things. Homer is Homer, and Pluto is a planet. So remember, folks, as always, if you walked out of bed today and had a job to go to and a home to come back to, and someone there who cares about you, folks, the game's over and you've won. So be well, don't sneak bottles into a stadium, and don't get into a fight. We'll see you here next time.